Welcome back to season 2 of the podcast, where we're having candid conversations, open, honest, vulnerable conversations from people, friends, and clients that I admire. Our intention here is to educate and empower you. We are unscripted, we are live, and today I'm diving in with Megs, an empowerment photographer and overall emotional human being based out of Alberta, Canada, who seeks to empower women through her work. She's got a 12-month-old and a 350-month-old, which I had to do the math, is a 29-year-old person. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself, Megs, and then we'll talk about how we know each other.
You just said it. I'm just doing the whole mom thing, the whole trying to run my own business thing. My husband and I just moved into a house we bought last year, and I just finished my mat leave in June, so now I'm doing the photograph thing, and I've really found it. I've really found what I want to do, and so it's really just mostly diapers, feeding an angry baby, and then trying to work in between that.
All right, well, that sounds good. I am really stoked to have this conversation because we don't really know each other yet. We're just online friends that have caught a vibe and think each other are really rad, and we've become each other's like hype women, and I'm super into it. I don't even remember. I think you had originally reached out to me about something, and that's how I came across your profile, or
I think I reached out to you to do your podcast.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's a part of my whole thing as a human, is that I ask for what I want, and so I went on a hard podcast bender for a while, because I did one, the Hazy podcast. It's a Health at Every Size podcast. Ooh. And I re-listened to it 20 times, and I was like, I have to be on more podcasts. So then I was like, I gotta find my people. But then I found you, and you were just a wonderful person. So then I was like, yes, this is my person. So I knew that I would be on here eventually at some point.
That's amazing. Yeah, I do remember now. You reached out during season 1, and I wasn't interviewing anyone on that season. So I'm glad that this has come full circle. Yeah. And it isn't being on, we could just talk about it for a split second, but don't you think being on podcasts is fun?
It's so fun. After I did my first one, I was like, oh, I need to do my own podcast. But then I was like, I have far too much on my plate. Do not bite off something else too. But that's a future long time dream. I love podcasts. They're the best.
Yeah. Mine has been 4 or 5 years in the brew. So just give yourself time.
Yeah, lots of time.
I'm so good at biting off more than I can chew. 100%.
I feel that.
So you had mentioned that you feel like you're really getting your groove with photography. Do you want to talk a bit more about how you found your path into empowerment photography?
Yeah, I started like most people do, families, couples. I did the odd wedding. It was fun in that you're providing a service to people that they value, and you're creating memories for people, and it's fun and stuff like that. But it was missing that component of meaning, component of service that I really ached for in photography. When you do families over and over again, it's the same thing. You kind of give them the same ideas. You get really autopilot-y with it. Mm-hmm. So I just did a boudoir session just for a friend of mine off the cuff who had modeled in the past. So she was a great first person to do it with. And then I was I bore witness to a profound micro ounce dose of healing that happened in such a small short of time that I facilitated.
Whoa, so I just got goosebumps.
I know, right? Yeah, that's what I did. Sorry, that's how I felt when I found it first, because I was like, holy shit, this is I can't believe I did this. So, I don't need, and that's my thing, I don't want to be your extended coach. I don't want to be your fitness person. I don't want to be your nutritionist. I just want to be here so that you can have some presence into your body for the first time in who knows how long, and just appreciate it for what it is for just a short period of time. And then I'm gonna be your hype girl for the rest of your life, obviously. Woo! But yeah, it was the transition that women go through is remarkable. Back before I got into photography, I thought that boudoir was just this weird subsect of photography that older rich white women did for their husbands. And now I'm 100% convinced that it's like a service to yourself. If you can do it for yourself, getting in front of, I mean, getting in front of the camera is like an incredibly liberating thing, and seeing yourself in an image as you are really takes the wind out of your sails. Like, I mean, we spend however long avoiding our own image. And when you finally see your own image as you are, there's something radically disarming about it. And you go through like this concentrated healing in our session, and then you get them back, your photos back, and it just carries you on air. People leave my session on air. It's like therapy.
Oh my gosh. Just real quick, for anybody that doesn't know, would you just mind explaining what a boudoir how do you say it again?
Boudoir.
Boudoir. Yeah, what that is.
So it's like sexy photography. I take issue with the word boudoir. I'd really rather I really want to get empowerment photography out there as the mainstream kind of thing, because traditional boudoir is very like representative of one body type. It's generally a societally ideal body type. They're generally white, able-bodied, they're generally young, and they're very like traditional boudoir is like very like in a piece with a G-string, and like it's all very like, I would say, curated by and for men is what it seems like to me.
Okay.
So the reason I like empowerment photography is because you don't have to wear a G-string to feel sexy. You can wear jeans and a t-shirt, you can wear booty shorts and like a sports bra, like whatever you feel good in will produce sexy photos. And I've had people go like wear entire dresses all the way to being fully naked. Like I've had everything. So that's why I'm like, when people think about boudoir, they think like lace and bodysuits and like drama and lighting and like hair and makeup. And I'm really just want to facilitate an experience for you. So, and I also think that a lot of women don't do boudoir because they see that one human and they're not of that human, right? Yeah.
I will say I just had to Google the definition. Do you know what the definition is?
I don't.
Is it a French word? It sounds French.
It must be.
It means a woman's bedroom or private room.
Ooh, saucy.
Yes. Do you mind at all sharing that specific experience that you were saying that you had this moment with someone and you realized the potential for healing?
Yeah, I mean, it was really strange because after I did her, she was pretty comfortable because she was a model. So like I didn't really have to direct her too terribly much. I would say the first time that I did a session for someone who was paying me that wasn't of the typical archetype that was when I really knew, because the first one was kind of like an experiment, and she was there fully, like I was there fully, because she knew what she was doing. The first time that I was facilitating the experience on my own and providing this space for somebody to, and it's often a perfect stranger, so for somebody to be vulnerable, that's a learned practice, and it was scary at first. But what happens is they're super nervous and they like don't know what to do with their hands and their arms, and they don't feel comfortable, and they're like, reticent to take clothes off. And, so my job is really to encourage you to do the scary thing, but also acknowledge and see where your boundaries are and where your discomforts are and kind of toe that line. And so by the end of this session, she had become done a complete 180 into an entirely different person. I didn't recognize the person that we ended up at. Women always say women always will be like, I don't know how to model. And I'm like, you don't need to know how to model, because by the end of the session, you'll be like, drama, yes, chin up, yes. Like it's the whole thing. And so every time, every single person I've ever shot gets into a flow state, as you do. And then by the end, you're like a whole other person. And then they leave the session just beaming and like just strutting down the street and, living their best life. And so I knew that after I witnessed it for the first time, that there was something here other than just purely I made my husband an album for our wedding anniversary. This is a gift to yourself. Yeah. And your husband can enjoy them if he wants, but this is about you first, right?
Oh my gosh, that is really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love how yeah, like it's really beautiful to hear you talk about taking on that responsibility of guiding someone and being able to notice where their boundaries are. Especially, I was just sharing about my modeling journey on Instagram today, and I've worked with plenty of men that have absolutely no boundaries and no regard for that, and it's straight up dangerous.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you bring that up because there's like so like boudoir photographers, a lot of them have turned into calling themselves intimate photographers because it's more inclusive of like erotic and like nude portraits and couples. I do couples and individuals.
Okay.
And so there was a big education platform called Do More Photographers that was specifically for educating intimate photographers. And it came out that the people who were in charge was this like couple that had an open relationship. He had a bunch of accusations levied at him of basically sexual harassment with his models and with his educators that he had underneath him. They had a bunch of educators.
Oh
And so
my.
the whole like platform got disbanded, but it inspired, as these things do, a conversation about creating a safe space for your clients and your people. A lot of intimate photographers won't go to clients' houses. I do that now because I don't have my own space, but the thing that's most important to me and when I talk to my clients is the thing that you need to be aware of is that I'm here to facilitate a safe, comfortable space for you. And I really drill in that we have to have open and honest communication. You need to tell me when you're uncomfortable. You need to tell me if you have limitations in terms of if you have bad knees or a broken shoulder, and then there's this thing too, like a lot of photographers I see, not just boudoir photographers, but just photographers in general, like won't ask people before they adjust the strap or move a stray hair or something like that.
Oh.
And that's like huge for me. I will always ask you before I touch you. And I mean, it becomes apparent right away when you work with somebody where their comfort level's at. And that's a part of your job as a photographer, is to see that, acknowledge that, and honor that. And so that as long as they feel safe and respected, I've really just done my job.
I am so excited to be having this conversation with you. Fists up. I'm like classic excited mode. I put my fists up and shake them because I know you can't see that through listening to the podcast. Real quick before I ask other questions, you said that specific education thing was dismantled. Do you know of any other place for people to be able to like learn more about what you're talking about? Like consent?
There's like a consent specifically. I mean, there is a litany of like pretty well
Well,
established photographers.
sorry.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, for photographers, I guess
Yeah.
is what I meant. Yes.
Yeah, there's a ton of like photographer educators that are there, especially like a lot of them are really like with the times, really modern, really like forward thinking. Terry Hofford is a photographer based out of Winnipeg, and she's super like all about body neutrality, all about inclusivity, and right verbiage and consent and boundaries and safety. And it's and she, along with like, God, there's there's huge photographers everywhere. You just have to find your right people, and there's like hundreds of thousands of Facebook groups. There's lots of free education in that realm of things for sure.
Do you think part of it would come from just possibly even establishing your own values and knowing that that's important to you, and then seeking out other educators and people that kind of go in that line of work?
Yeah, like when I found Terry was when I realized that there was a market and other people trying to do what I was trying to do. So like I had a lot of discontent with common boudoir because it's really not inclusive in any way. And I had a lot of women telling me, I feel like I don't belong in that world. I feel like I don't belong in front of a camera. And so when when I shifted my thinking to think I'm really more here to empower you and to help you sit in your power instead of just give you photos. Photos are really like just kind of the cherry on top, really. I mean, you do end up with a product, but what you're going through is transformative, and that's the more important part. And like, I will pose every single body the exact same way. I'm not going to like stick your tummy away from the camera because it's bigger than it should be. I'm not going to like do clever lighting tricks. I
just want to point out that you did air quotes around should.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. I don't Photoshop out stretch marks, cellulite. Really, the rule of thumb is if it's gone in 2 weeks, then I'll take it off your skin. So if you have a really unfortunate zit, that's okay. It's not a part of you. So That's
That
the
is
rule.
amazing. I love that's the best rule. I actually, for the first time ever, just asked the photographer that I worked with today if she would maybe just like chop out the two zits that I have on my face right now. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
they're just driving me crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's in my own work with modeling. I've always sought out photographers that also don't like overly, I don't even know the right words, use Photoshop and blemish fixing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's called retouching, and
Right, retouching. There we go.
yeah, you can do like slight things that help. Like I've never found anything wrong with removing bags under people's eyes, or the like just little, sometimes there's like little lines, and then there's also like sometimes red creases from where you're wearing pants. That kind of stuff's fine. But if you, as a photographer, produce an image that's nothing like what they look like, you're just reinforcing their like dysmorphia that they probably already experience, and that's a disservice to them and
Yes.
to you, really.
And the world.
Yeah.
Because we're not representing real bodies, and that's what we fucking need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really want to know more about your story, because in my experience, most people that are living loud and proud, empowered, and, conscious of able bodies and consent and all of this goodness, have probably, like, the people that I have talked to have all gone through shit to be able to realize that, like, this is who I fucking am, and I'm going to stand in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And except, okay, let me say, there's been a couple people that were like, no, actually I had a really great childhood, and I'm just like, I feel really happy, and I don't know. What do you have to say?
Well, I mean, I was raised by a single mom who was a bit of a basket case when I was younger. I was like an adult kid. I had mostly adult friends. Um I grew up really fast because my parents were absent for big parts of my life, be it physically or mentally. So I always say I more or less raised myself. My mother takes issue with that when she hears it, because she's like trying to be a superstar now, and she is. But so growing up, she was like my best friend, I would say. We were more like friends than we were mother-daughter.
I can relate
She
to
really,
that.
yeah, like there was not a lot of boundaries, and lucky for her, I was just a good kid. I mean, the most I ever really did was drink and smoke weed. Like, I didn't even try anything. Like, I was very responsible, and I was the mother of my friend group at all times.
Yeah.
But I was also really like just loud with my being. And then the first like major relationship I got into was a train wreck. He was like manipulative and abusive, and he was awful.
Was that
and
the narcissist?
Yeah.
I just read your article about that on your link.
Yeah, he really like I allowed him to take my power for a long time, and a long time afterwards too. And his effect on me is still sometimes permeates in my life as it is now. But I have the person that I'm married to now is aware and very encouraging of me to rehold my spine, because it was gone for a long time. So it is a process in that it's actually really funny, because I'm like an introvert by nature, but like when I'm working, I'm like this like just grand person. So I do require a ton of downtime and a ton of non-people time. But I don't know where I was going with this. Yeah, so it was really just, he was the biggest thing that kind of happened to me, where I questioned myself for a long time. But you get it back, and you just pivot, right? So I went through it, and then there was big pain, and then every time something happened, you just have to repivot. What's not working, what isn't right, just repivot. So my life has been a series of just small pivots, even in my business, right? Something's not working, how can we just change it slightly to be more working, right? So I mean, I was a fairly functional child altogether. I was like a little adult, but I'm totally still a basket case because of it. But I think it like absolutely benefits my work. I'm like, was such a moody hormonal teenager. Oh, the angst was real. I used to like write in journals. My first boyfriend was a goth. It was all very like moody and broody. And I like to think the best parts of that angsty teenage version that listened to grunge and like never left my room to my work as a moody photographer without being like mentally absent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sitting over here thinking like, were we the same person? Are we the same person?
Yeah.
I've never met somebody else that also said that they had adult friends as a kid. That was something that I definitely had. And it's always been weird for me to think about that I was just a kid hanging out with these adults. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, anyway. But with you saying that with your like introverted and extrovertedness, now all of a sudden I'm thinking of my ENFP, Myers-Briggs, and I'm curious, do you happen to know yours?
You know, I did it a long time ago when I was in school, but I don't know. And honestly, the only like kind of personality thing that's ever really fit with me was the Enneagram. Have you taken the Enneagram?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your
I'm
number?
a 4. I'm
Okay.
super moody broody. I'm an
I love
artist.
it.
What are you?
I'm a 7, the
Oh,
entertainer that avoids
yeah.
pain at all costs.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I did that, I was like, I feel attacked. I feel attacked. Like this is so disturbing on all levels. It was like
Yes.
so like, and I know 4s in my life and we're nothing alike, but then I know deep down we have the same horrid interior, you know? And so I'm just like, this thing is weird. It was super weird.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I just remembered too. When I'm saying where are we the same person? I was also extremely moody and angsty in childhood. I had a goth phase.
Yeah,
Big
you did.
time. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, thank you for seeing me. But let's be clear. It was a hot topic, goth phase.
Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
100.
Naturally. My my first boyfriend was very like he's really tall and he used to wear this like really long black trench coat. I just think about it now and I'm just like, Christ, what was I thinking? And we used to go as kids, I had this weird refined palate as a small child. My friends and I used to go, and I don't remember where we got the money for this. We used to go to this little French restaurant all the time when we were like 14. We used to get escargot and camembert, and we used to eat this fancy dinner all the time with
Dang.
I know, right? It was like our thing that we did on Friday night. Well, I acquired this like goth boyfriend with the trench coat, the upside down crosses under the eye. It was a whole thing. Tried to bring him into my favorite French restaurant, this little small thing that was owned by this lovely family in town, and they wouldn't let me in the restaurant. They told me it was full.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So then I was
Wow.
like, oh shit, I can't bring you in this restaurant. I was a very strange, yeah, like a little adult. It was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is so fascinating, and all the like tiny little things and experiences that happen that morph us into where we are at this very moment.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh. Uh, what about like your self-love journey? Do you want to share anything
Mm.
about that?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about that till the cows come home. I mean, I have a pretty stereotypical journey of self-love in that I was never I mean, I have thin privilege, like I'm thin presenting. I don't go
Hmm.
through life with the same burdens that fat people do, but um
Same.
yeah, so but when I was little, like my grandfather asked me frequently, well, like a teenager, not little, I've always had a paunch of sorts. He used to ask me if I was pregnant. He used to be really into
Oh
like
my God.
making us all like do something physical. He was very image oriented. Uh and it was very important to him that we as a family be perceived in a certain way. We've got like, oh God, we could do a whole podcast on my grandfather. He was right. Anyway, so my mom was very like, ooh, rah, do you beat to the beat of your beat drum. That was excellent.
Yes, it
Um,
was.
and I think it was a direct like contradiction and fight against my grandfather, who was very image oriented, very like, we need to be wealthy, we need to look a certain way. Anyway, so like, I mean, my thighs have never not rubbed together. I'm familiar with being in a softer body, and I fought it for a long time in terms of just not I always thought that I was on my way to being somewhere else. Instead of just being here, I thought I was always like 15 pounds away from being here and 10
Uh,
pounds away from being here. If I could just get rid of this, then I could be fine with this. And I think, and
yeah.
I was talking about this a while ago, I think it's like a cultural thing that we have this incessant need to arrive somewhere. But we always don't know what to do with ourselves when we arrive in that place. And it's like this like dissonance, I feel like, especially like when you think about how we consume media, there's always a beginning and an end. We're always arriving somewhere. But if you shift your focus into you're never really arriving, you're just riding, you know,
Mm.
then it takes the weight off of needing to arrive 10 pounds lighter, 20 pounds lighter. And just know that like you're riding this wave, your body's going to fluctuate. I try to feed myself food that makes me feel good. I try to move my body, but I like refuse to be a part of jumping jacks or like burpees, like never.
Not
Never.
for
So
you.
I do, yeah. I do like I mean, I have like all of those things that have been societally bred into me about my body hair, about my stretch marks,
Mm.
about this, about that. And sometimes I buy into them and sometimes I don't. But what really shifted my perspective on my own body was taking pictures of myself. And as soon
Oh.
as that happened, I was all like, girl, I arrived. I arrived into myself as soon as I saw myself because I was like, okay, you're preaching body love via pictures. You should probably get pictures of yourself. You should probably get in front of the camera. And it's not the same because I'm directing myself. So I have, there's more comfortability there.
Sure, of
Um,
course.
yeah, but you know, like I have posted pictures of myself that I never thought I ever would ever in any lifetime when I was younger. And because I have to, because I know that there are people that would never even think or breathe about doing a shoot, right? So like it was incredible the amount of healing I went through myself. My sex life with my husband improved. Like it was crazy, all of these like weird side effects. And I was like, and I'm all about like you know, sharing the nudes with your girlfriends. I started this train a while ago. I was like, why are we sending nudes to dudes? We should send them to each other because we're hype girls and like let's see each
Yeah,
other's nudes. So I have this friend,
fucking love that.
right? So I have this friend that she always sends me her nudes. She's like, tell me which one's more flattering and blah 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 blah. I always send her my nudes. And so I'm like, let's share our nudes with the internet. Like I love this. And so it's really just like sometimes it feels like I sometimes have to check myself and be like, you're really just not as great as you think you are. And then I'm like, yes, I am. I am as great as I think I am. And then I post the picture and then I'm fine.
That's amazing. I can relate to that with the seeing yourself and just feeling empowered. But I think for me, it's come from looking back on older photos and realizing that I'm only 20 years old in that photo. And I'm, you know, I'm simple and perfectly imperfect and gorgeous, you know, and then just knowing that in that moment I was sucking all of my joy out of it and I was just nitpicking myself and like overthinking. And I don't want to live my life that way. I don't want to look back on photos of myself and think, gosh, I wish I could have just loved myself then because I looked great. And I also think it comes with self-acceptance so that we're not constantly just putting ourselves down for this now, like where we are right now. Like I looked
Mhm.
great then, I don't look great now. And but you will think that you look great now when it's in the future. So accept yourself now.
Yeah. Well, and like your body's an evolution. Yeah. Like after I had my
Yeah.
baby, they were all life, not anyone close to me, but just culturally, it was all about the bounce back. And I was
Mm.
like my hips are physically wider because I pushed a baby out. They're not going to come back together. And like I evolved as a human being, personality, emotionally, physically. I'm not going to be back to where I was before. I will never be the same. So we're always just trying to like, it's that arriving thing again. I want to go back or I want to get here or I
Mm-hmm.
have to do this first. And I always say to people, like, it is my job to work and make money and provide for myself, but that's not why I want you to do it. I want you to do it because if you're not careful, your whole life will pass you by and you'll have no documentation of who you were at 20, who you were at 30. And you're always going to wish you were back at 20 because those are the good old days. Back
Right.
at 30 because those were the good old days. And you're going to have no photos because you were just waiting to arrive. But the secret is you never arrive. You just keep going. So as soon as
Seriously.
you let go of that expectation, you're like, I don't need to. So when people say I need to be 10 pounds lighter to photograph myself, and I'm just like, let me break down for you why that's problematic.
I love that. Yes, I love that you are doing that work. It's
Mhm.
so, so powerful. And I just love hearing how it's coming out in a different profession because I'm just so saturated in the wellness space, you know?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. And especially this, what you're saying about arriving and that there is no arrival ever, that just resonates with me so deeply. And I can't, I'm trying to think of the words to maybe even share how that started to shift within me, and right this exact moment I can't think of it. But I know it's the little things that I notice now in my day to day, things that I enjoy and just let myself indulge in, and also little things like not thinking twice about food, or not thinking twice when I look in the mirror, or whatever it is. And it's looking back, I guess that perspective of always wanting to arrive is such a fucking waste of time and energy, and it's distracting you from stepping into your power and being who the fuck you are and who you're meant to be. And like, I know that you're not feeling your best. You may not be feeling your best, but how can you support yourself to feel better without shaming yourself into needing to lose 10 fucking pounds?
Yeah.
I'm so sick and tired of hearing about weight, to be completely honest.
You know what? I always say to people, shame is not a good motivator. You can't shame people into losing weight, into being better. Because what happens with we went from all hating the way we looked to like being fervently body positive, not the actual movement, just the literal words. And now we shame people for not loving themselves. And I'm always like, can we just get here somewhere in the middle? You don't have to love everything about yourself, and you won't. There will be things that you don't love about yourself. The goal is that your body and your looks can't stop you from doing the things that you want to do. You want to do a shoot, it shouldn't stop you from doing a shoot. You may not love the shape of your ass. That's okay. If you shame yourself for not loving yourself, then you have to work through the shame first, and then you have to work through why you don't love your ass. So there's like 2 extra layers of emotional labor that you've now given to yourself, because societally we have decided that everybody needs to love themselves. Let's just shift it back and move through it. I'm always like, I always say to women when they get their photos back, they may not love them because it's sometimes jarring to see yourself so there.
Yes.
So to say, what you experience is something akin to a vulnerability hangover. You were very vulnerable with a stranger. It's a lot of emotional expenditure. You need to leave your photos and come back to them when you've treated yourself with a little bit of tenderness and move through the feelings. Instead of coming up against them and fighting them, just move through them. I don't like my nose today. That's okay. And then you leave it so much quicker than if you get to, I don't like my nose today. Why? You have a great nose. Well, no, I don't have a great nose. You know, like it's so much work being here. Just sit in the middle and just, everybody just needs to relax.
Do you have any of your own specific practices for like helping to kind of get out of these little cycles of self-sabotage and self-doubt?
Yeah, my husband said to me today, get out of your own head. It's not safe in there, because that's what happens when I spend too much time with just my baby and I don't leave my house. If I'm not careful, I'll stay inside for weeks at a time. Like I have to actively leave.
Seriously. Oh my God. It's been the best thing realizing that in quarantine. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, you're like, I'm good with this. I'm totally good with this. So for me, it's very much like I really quickly, because when we leave, you should read about the 4. We cycle really big. So I go through really big highs, really big lows, really big. They're not as pronounced now that I have a child and I can't be a basket case all the time because I have to look after a child. So what would normally happen is I would be euphoric on productivity, ideas, creativity, and then I would swing down really hard because I would work too hard too fast, and then I would burn out, right? Like it's it.
Yep.
So the thing with me and working for myself has been a new adjustment in terms of I have to give myself time off. I have to force myself to not work, and I have to force myself to stop at a certain time at night because it affects my relationship, but also it affects just like I'm always half present because I'm always like, I need to answer this email, blah, 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 blah. So I really easily slip into really kind of severe states of being, whether it's like really productive, really sad, really just like the world is coming to an end, to really positive. And I try to kind of bring myself back into that center where we can just not live in the extremes so hard. And it is a work in progress, but I have to just constantly talk to myself. I have to, sometimes I actually do it out loud. Is this train of thought? Because I read somewhere, did you know that I read somewhere that there are two types of thinkers: people that think in like sentences, like someone's talking to them, and then people that think in like abstract thought, like they visualize like scenes. So there's
Mm,
two different kinds of thinkers.
that makes
And
sense.
I'm more of like a visual. I see a scene and that's how I think, and I just see things playing out.
I think that's
So
how I think.
yeah. So it's because of that, I have to, that talking to myself, whether literally or just in my head, is the way to kind of rein those in and make them not so dramatic. And it's a constant, is this train of thought serving me? Is it helpful? Is it realistic? Is this actually going to happen? I went through a pretty bad bout of like postpartum. And so a thing that's really common with postpartum is you have really bad invasive thoughts. Like you picture your baby falling down the stairs, you picture them
Mm,
flying out the window, like dramatic, not very common scenarios, but they loop themselves on repeat.
yeah.
So I've had to learn how to, and that's helped me in every aspect of my life, is learning how to acknowledge, to not judge, and to let it go. Instead
Mhm.
of like, because if you actively just try and fight it and get mad at yourself for it happening in the first place, it sticks around into this awful loop. And so I see it, I acknowledge it, I let it go. And that's what been like almost 30 years in the making to get that kind of thought process going down. But like the same thing with body image, the same thing with mental health, the same thing with everything. The process is not linear. I think everybody kind of just like wants to just go like this, and then we'll arrive again. There's a thing with the arriving again.
Yeah.
But really it's more like you got a really big, really bad, really big, really bad. We go up and down really hard. And because we fight it too, the extremes are just more extreme. So I'm really just
Right.
looking for more of a subtle wave.
Well, and even so, like, it's not even like I love this. I use like the analogy of this wave type graph because it's not, or like a roller coaster. It's not even just up and down. It's seriously like up and back and loop de loo and around.
Yeah.
It's like it's no sense at all of a linear path, and that, yeah, at
And you're
all.
not always moving, right? Like sometimes you're stagnant. Sometimes you're stagnant for a
Yeah.
long time, and sometimes stagnancy is good, sometimes it's not good. But like you just have to have the self-awareness to want to look at yourself and look at your thinking. And if you like, and that's my whole thing, like if you want to be better, okay. If you don't, okay. I'm not here to like tell you who you need to be. Only you can tell yourself that. But I am here to tell you that you're fine the way you currently are, and to not judge yourself. I feel like we would make so much more progress if we just let go of the judgment of ourselves. We would move forward so much quicker instead of having to unpack everything, go through generational baggage and trauma, which is a good thing to do. But, like just be okay with the fact that sometimes you're a horrible person and we'll just move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I love what you're saying. Acknowledging and noticing is definitely the first step. And
Mhm.
then being able to bring in these other tools to be able to shift some of the shit that's going on within us. And it sounds like especially boundaries and self-questioning are two of your biggest tools possibly.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
hear you saying.
Boundaries are huge for sure because like I'm like a slight people pleaser too, and especially
Mm,
in my business I have this tendency to like always want to like give people discounts or like because I just want to work and I just want to be of service and I just want people to have this experience, but
yes.
it's actually doing more of a disservice to me because when you undervalue yourself you get clients who also undervalue you, so it
Right.
actually doesn't work. But um yeah, so I've had to that boundaries there too with like the stopping and the scheduling and the hyper organization really helps with implementing those boundaries, but also just being aware of like boundaries with relationships with friends. I have to cut myself off from people if they're too sucky of my energy. It's things you just aren't aware of, I feel like, until later in life.
Yeah, I think that one, especially boundaries and relationships, is one that I'm actually working through pretty actively right now. Uh,
Mhm.
it's been really hard for me to realize just how much I give up myself entirely for other people, whether that's a friendship, just like somebody being like, hey, do you want to hang out? And I'm like, oh shit, I can rearrange my whole day to go hang out with this person because
I
I,
feel
yeah,
that.
totally. And then also partnerships where I'm just like, oh, like I'm so in love and like I want to just be with you and do things for you. And I can rearrange my entire life to appease you.
Yep.
And it's damaging for me and others too, because it teaches them it's not an authentic way of telling somebody how you want to be treated.
Yeah, well, that and you lose your sense of self, right? Like
Yes.
I went through that, oh God, far too many times to count. Was the let me For a long time I had a really loose sense of self and I relied on other people. So I kind of became like a mirror, right? When I
Mm-hmm.
was with this kind of person, I was more this type of way if I was, so I mirrored other people, but then I over time became resentful that I wasn't my own person at them,
Big
even
time.
though it was really me that initiated that. I did that with my ex. I was like a whole other person. People that knew me in a previous life didn't recognize me with him. I was A, because he was loco, but B, because I didn't know who I was, and he was really magnanimous and like had a really big personality. And so he just kind of enveloped me. And so my husband now is quite conscientious of it and will often like push me to do the things that make me me and not make me his wife. There's a
Yeah,
very, which is important,
that's
big
amazing
time.
to have a
Yeah.
partnership like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it happens in motherhood too. I feel like I got really, like, you get really quickly swallowed up by motherhood because you feel almost immediately mother guilt about taking time for yourself and being your own person outside of being a mother. Like, there's like, I read this thing, somebody was like, it's really little, but I hate how when you have a baby, everybody calls you mama, but nobody calls dada or papa. Being a mother is
Oh.
not my, like, how you doing, mama? Being a mother is not my only identity. I have other
Whoa.
things. It's cool, eh? I don't even think about it because people call me mama all the time. I don't even really think about it, but it's a good pointer to know that kind of culturally we're kind of still like women are moms.
Well,
That's what your
yeah,
job
and
is.
big, that's just like I'm sitting here with like this dumbfounded look on my face because I'm just like, holy shit. I've never called someone papa
Yeah.
unless I was like joking about it. Like, and
Yeah.
it would definitely be like, hey, big papa. That was how I would say it. But
Yeah,
you're
totally.
like, hey, little mama, or like, damn, hot mama, like, you got it. And you're never being like, yeah, that fun daddy over there. Like, some people maybe, but
Yeah.
I only use daddy in terms of like a gender neutral term, not actually like speaking of men.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah. And a big part of like my journey as a mother was learning how important it was for me to still be who I am and be my own person so that I can show her that that's really important and to not lose myself
Yeah.
in motherhood because I get into those sneaky spirals in my brain sometimes and so I have to sit back and refocus because she'll get older. I don't
Right.
want to be the type of person if she leaves for school and I'm like, what do I do now?
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah,
gonna have
totally.
stuff going on. So, and I want her to see that the work that it takes, the grind that you have to do, the sacrifices you have to make so that you can cultivate a life that you want to have. And a part of that is not losing yourself entirely to one specific thing,
Yeah.
whether it's a relationship or whether it's your kid.
Wow, that is just I just had like five thoughts come to my head at once, so I gotta like take a breath. Well, I heard recently that that is a specific ADHD thing, and I've never been officially diagnosed for that, but it definitely happens to me all the time.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. My therapist wants to test me for ADHD. She talks a lot about how like it presents differently in women
Mm,
because of cultural shit and because of it. It's not, people think about ADHD as this like actual like can't sit still vibe, but
right.
that's not often how it presents in women. So
Interesting.
it is interesting.
Do you know how it presents in women
I
specifically?
think it's more mental, and I don't quote me on this because I'm
Okay.
definitely not an expert, but I definitely think it's more like disorganization here and just like I can't in my house, I can't sit still until I'm so tired I have to sit down. Like I'm just like, always running at 30% capacity, always tidying, always picking things up, always adjusting things. And
Oh
then
my
the other day I was vacuuming my washer and dryer because it was dusty, because it's a
God.
dryer. And
Yeah.
then I noticed behind it, there's like a little ledge that had never been vacuumed. And I was like, and so I had to take apart the whole vacuum and attach all the like the long hoses onto it. And I was doing that for an hour that I should have just been doing something else. And it's that like needing to do stuff, but not being organized with how I do it. And so like
Yeah.
once I see it, I can't ignore it until I deal with it. And if it doesn't get dealt with, it henpecks me in my head.
But do you have some kind of organizational system or something that keeps
I
you from being
have to keep
distracted?
a schedule. I have to keep a schedule. My house is bigger than it needs to be
Okay.
for the fact that there's only two of us and a baby in here. So, and we also have two cats and a dog. And so I just feel like I'm constantly looking after living things. And I have a husband who leaves socks everywhere. So there is a schedule. It's on the cupboard because if I know that it's written down, I know that I'll get to it. But
Yes.
if it's just in my head floating around like laundry should probably get done at some point, then it takes up too much of my mental space.
Way so
But
much space.
yeah, but once you write it down, and that's like living stuff, right? Like cleaning the bathrooms, doing the laundry, doing the dishes are like living stuff that needs to be done often. So it's like right at the forefront here. But if you write it down, you're just pulling it out of your head and putting it on paper.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get to it, you know that it's there, you know what needs to be done that week, and then you can, that mental space can go to something else, something more productive.
Yes. Yeah, I'm the same way. I have a cleaning schedule that I talk pretty openly about. But weekly I pretty much like clean. I have a series of things that I do with cleaning, and then on a monthly basis I do more of a deep clean. But with that schedule, for example, if I see something in my throughout the week that, like, we'll use your example, the dusty shelf, that I'm like, oh shit, that needs to be cleaned. You could write that down with your already scheduled stuff so that when it's time for that, you're like, oh yeah, I think I wrote something down. I had a reminder or something for myself. It's
Yeah.
out of your brain. You have extra space. Then you go and you have that reminder right there. Oh yeah, that dusty shelf. I'm going to get to it.
Yeah, totally. And there's like on, there's, I don't know if you have a Mac or a PC,
A
but
Mac.
there's the Stickies app on the Mac.
Yes.
I have 8 stickies on my desktop. They're very full. It's overwhelming to look at, but it's the only thing that saves me from my head imploding on itself.
Oh
Because there's just
man.
too many ideas. Like I just have all of the ideas all the time. And often what happens is because I have too many ideas, I split my focus between them all. And so
Right.
nothing really gets my full attention. But I always, like, it's a daily discussion with myself. Just push it aside. You need to put all your attention on this one thing, this empowering woman thing. Because I'll get onto the like, I should do real estate photography because it makes really good money. I should do product photography because it makes really good money. I should do this. I should do a podcast and a speaking circuit. I want to write a book, blah, blah, blah. We just need to, we're going to relax and get back to this is what you do. You take pictures of women, you facilitate an experience, get this chugging along first, and then we'll talk about something else. But it's a daily reminder.
Yeah,
But
I
with,
completely agree. Yes. I have
yeah.
all these note cards, sticky notes that I put up, like where my ideas are, like books, retreats, collaborations, workshops, like literally it's constant. And then I do have a pretty good system online with Trello. Have you ever used Trello?
No.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to talk about it. It's been a game changer for the way that I organize my brain, but most everything is in there. And then I put most of my like lists and everything in Trello, but I was still occasionally am shuffling around these papers and notebooks just because for whatever reason at this point in my life, I still have to be like a physical pen and paper person or sticky note on the wall person.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to study in university like that. I used to tape a big paper to my wall and just stand and write. It was it was good. And that's the organization of the brain. It's integral to get to being any kind of productive, at least if you're a space cadet like me. Like things just leave my head. Like I'm shocked sometimes that I can maintain a relationship. Like I just like we'll have full conversations that I'll just be absent for, and he can tell because I'll just be like
Yeah,
I feel like our roles are reversed. I'm the one that checks out, and he's the one that talks a lot, and so I'm always just like, oh, good story, yeah,
stereotypically.
like yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally, yeah. So sometimes that's why it's like a relationship issue if I'm like just always working, because I'm always like, yeah, cool, yeah, for sure. And he's like, you're not listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to bring in the neuroscience side of it too, is that if we never actually give ourselves the space and the permission and the time to fully rest and check out and log off and be away from our work and our busy lives, we are training our nervous system to never be able to actually tap into that space. It's called the
Mhm.
parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. And that is required for those two things, for regeneration in your body and for digestion to work.
Yeah.
Hello, you wouldn't be alive if those things are going on. And a lot of people actually have digestive issues that are manifesting as a lot of other things because of this.
Mhm.
Woo, I just like went off. I got a little heated.
It's actually funny. I'm a big advocate of your body being a holder of your pain and of your like mental and emotional trauma. After I wrote that article about my ex, I like my shoulder was fucked for like a week because I had spent
Oh.
the whole time writing about him with my shoulders up by my ears, and I was like very rigid and very tense. And
Yes.
then for like a week afterwards, I had to like, I like couldn't work out the same way because I was like, it was super screwed up. And I was just like, I'm just constantly reminded that your body holds your pain, your
Yes.
emotional pain and your spiritual
Yes.
pain. Yeah.
I talk about this in my Well Self course, and it's so true. It's like, to a certain extent, our thoughts really do manifest into our physiological body, because as you're saying, you're thinking of your ex who you had a traumatic experience with, and just thinking of that, your shoulders start to clench, and like the upper back muscles tend to start to tense, and all of that is just like one tiny example of the way that all of this manifests into the physical body. And there's just all these different ways that our stresses and trauma in our lives manifest and are presenting that we have absolutely no idea how they're connected to the original thing.
Yeah,
And
it's so true.
in my work as a like becoming more trauma informed, I'm just like, so I've held this long belief that I just don't think that we have to know where it comes from, and that we can, kind of relax in knowing that as I show up for myself and I learn how to love myself and be with myself and support myself, that we really are healing our trauma. And I actually read that, I don't know where my book is right now, but I read that passage that is actually true. Like, you don't have to know the actual event or thing that happened that is making you behave in this way or your body react in this way, but you can heal. And I remember when I read that passage, I yelled it out loud. I was like, I knew it.
I always say like we need to treat ourselves with just a little bit more tenderness, just a little bit more, because I always like having my work on the internet for so long, I have become totally impervious to bullshit criticism of it. I'm all for, if I ask for it, I'm all for constructive criticism that has a point in terms of technically with my photography and in terms of how I engage with my clients, that I will only receive from people that I respect in the field. And again, when I ask for it, right? But
Yes.
like when my work has been on the internet for so long that I have just seen it and heard it all in terms of people experiencing joy when they see my work, to disgust, to hate, to love, to revulsion, everything. I've had every spectrum. And I'm a big advocate of, maybe instead of spitting at me, you should explore why you feel that way. Why does my work compel you to feel this way? That's something worth exploring for yourself. And I was so wounded when I did a postpartum project. I took a bunch of like mostly naked photos of mamas that had birth several increments ago, however long ago. And I
Wow.
put it on the internet, and it was a joyous experience for me because I had just given birth, so it was cathartic for me. It was good to meet other women in my area, also good for me. But it was also just, again, the beginning of me starting to learn how to hold space for vulnerability. That was a big part of it. And it got published on an actual photography website, which was trippy for me because um, having your work viewed by other photographers feels more intense than from the general public, right?
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. So somebody wrote some ridiculous reply like, looking at these images, I could smell rotting breast milk. I
What
hate
the
them. Like,
fuck?
they were so viscerally disgusted by them.
Whoa.
And the comments had actually been turned off, and apparently that automatically happens after a week so that it doesn't spin out of control, which is actually smart. But um I said to my husband, this is making me so sad. And he was like, you would think that if your art is invoking a physical response of revulsion in somebody, that your art is doing its job. And then I was like, whoa. My husband can be oddly philosophic every now and again. And I'm like,
I love it.
whoa. So now I have like this weird shield around me. And now I'm like, you can't hurt me. If you are offended by my work, that's on you, boo. That's not on me. Like, that's
Yes.
100% something that you're moving through. And when I think about all of these humans and that live in this world, all these adults that have just had their hearts broken over and over again, that just don't know where to channel their hate and their rage, and it just comes out oddly at me every now and again, I just have a lot of tenderness for them now, because I'm like, I know that you have pain, and I know that you don't know where to direct it. And I feel for you. I also won't put up with it. Like, I'll delete, comment, report, but I also won't engage with it. People like will often engage with their trolls, and I'm just like, I also don't have the mental energy for it at all. But it's also really important for them that if I do engage with them, it's with kindness and with respect. And it always disarms them. One of my photos was on Reddit, and it kind of blew up. And every negative response I got, I was like really like had my phone voice on, my really professional, like, thanks for your input, and I did this like really kind of overly kind response to any kind of like ridiculous comment. It was a photo of a Black woman, and they like were like, I don't believe you when you say she's from Ethiopia. And I was like, okay, thanks for your comment. I didn't actually ask her for proof of her of her citizenship, but I will keep that in mind next time, right? And somebody commented and was like, I really appreciate how like tactful you were in your responses. And I'm like, I'm not gonna add to your level of self-hate. I'm not. I'm gonna meet you with kindness, and if you don't want to receive it, then we're done. Right? Yeah.
Especially with online, and I mean, of course, we can split the hairs here, but for me online, I always try to go in when I read something and I take it, like, I'm like, whoa, like that was really rude. Like, I always have to ask, like, check it and be like, could this possibly be said in a nice way? Like, because I think through text, especially, we take things out of context ourselves so much. At least I do. I've noticed that I do that. And sometimes I've gotten super defensive on people, and they're like, oh, like I was really just asking. And of course, this can be complicated because some people will say that when they are being a fucking asshole and they can't own up to it. But something comes with like the boundaries and, like you said, approaching with respect and kindness that ends up disarming, as you said, someone. And I think that really gives them an opportunity to be a better person.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So let's move into a topic that you had mentioned that I really do want to talk about.
Okay.
And it's what you had mentioned, the power of asking. Tell me more. Tell me about it. You're fired up about it.
I really just want to write a book called The Power of Asking, but I'm pretty sure one already exists. It's called The Power of Asking. But
oh, really? Oh, wait. Is it by Amanda Palmer?
I think so.
I've totally read that book.
Have you?
Yeah.
I didn't know it existed until I posted on my Instagram stories, I'm gonna write a book called The Power of Asking. And somebody was like, it exists, man. And I was like, oh no. But it's really like it's a combination. I feel like with enterprising and with like entrepreneurship and like doing anything that you're really passionate about, it's a combination of kind of metaphorically asking, so like inviting it to come into your space, focusing your energy on what you want to manifest. A lot of it is manifestation, but a lot of it is, but like 90% of it, TBH, is actually physically asking and actually chasing what it is that you want. Because like stuff's not just going to land in your lap. People aren't just going to know that you exist all of a sudden and go, wow, I really want to support you and what you do. Like, it doesn't work that way. So like with any hobby, with any endeavor, it's 90%, this is my formula, 90% hard work, 5% talent, and 5% just luck, right place, right time kind of stuff. But I'm now convinced, after like going through this rigmarole with social media, with trying to work for myself, you just got to show up, and you have to show up consistently. And when you're stuck, you have to ask for a hand, whether that's, and everything that I have gotten up until this point, every like shoot that I've gotten, every referral, every kind of opportunity, podcasts, blogging, etc., writing, etc., has been from actually asking. Every podcast I've been on is because I've messaged the person and said, "Let me be a guest on your podcast," and it works 1 out of every 25 times. But those times are really great times. And it's the same thing with like pitching freelance writing. After I published my postpartum series of photos, I probably sent out 200 emails to publications looking for it to get published, because I need people to see my work so that I can employ myself and yada yada. Is it a grind? Yes. But the reason that it got published 5 times was because I sent so many emails of people being like, can you please publish my work? And so now I'm just like, this is the reason I am where I am now. I quit my day job because in literally the last week, the last week before I had to go back to my job, and I'm just sitting here rocking back and forth because I just don't want to put my kid in daycare, and I'm just so bitter because my day job was at a bank. Like, it was like rotting under fluorescent lights. It was the least heart-filled job ever. Anyway, and so it's like a week before I'm supposed to go back, maybe 2. I don't want to be dramatic. And like, I asked somebody for a job. I was like, by the way, I'm supposed to go back to and I'm like notorious for asking people for jobs. My husband's always like feels awkward about it. And I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to say no? Okay, they're going to say no. So I asked somebody for a job, and I was like, I do not want to go back to my bank job. Please employ me, which is like, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I said. And he was like, what does your ideal job look like? And I definitely thought that we were just going to have a quick chat about it. But then he would like sent me a full-blown proposal if I was basically going to invest in my company as a startup. And that's why I could quit my job, because somebody's investing in me.
Oh,
and
shit.
And then all of a sudden imposter syndrome was like, oh my God, you are not a professional. You do not deserve this. This is crazy. You haven't been doing this for very long. But like, that's exactly how it happened. I asked for the job. I asked to be published. I asked to be on a podcast. And all of it is like feeding into building up my, like, it is kind of like, I hate the word branding, but like, it's my brand. Like, this is what I do. This is my thing. And so wherever I can stick my fingers to get it out there, this is like, I got so many things, right? So wherever I can put my things so that somebody may see it, that's how it is. And if you don't ask, nobody knows that you want it.
Right. Yeah. You have to, well, and that all comes back to, first, I feel like, knowing yourself, and to be able to decide, and even maybe even ask yourself from a really authentic place and getting true, like, what is it that you want, before being able to take that action. Because if you just go out the door trying to like do all these things, and you don't have a clear idea of who the fuck you are and what you stand for, I guarantee you're going to get walked all over, because it happened to me.
Yeah. And like, it seems really cheesy, but it's actually really helpful. Like, if you're like starting, you can even do it with yourself. You don't even have to do it with a business. But like, creating a mission statement is like legit so cheesy, but it's like the best way to literally physically write down who you want to be if you're doing it for yourself, or what you want, or what your business is. This is like, and if you put it down in a sentence, that one sentence dictates everything that you do. I'm here to empower women. So every time I get off on a tangent and think I need to buy a new lens so that I can do real estate photography, I go, is that my mission? The more time I spend away from the mission over in real estate, the less time that it's going to get, and the slower it's going to be to build it up. Whereas if I focus all my energy, and sometimes I'm like, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. That's scary. And I'm just like, well, that's the only way we're going to get anywhere powerful and fast, is I need to feed and serve the mission. This is the mission. Always with the mission.
What about the difference between a mission and a vision?
I think the mission would be now. I think the vision would be where you want to be. Maybe. I pulled that one out of my ass, but it actually makes sense for sure. The mission is, we want to empower women. We want to provide a service. We want to change how people feel about themselves, women or couples. I can do couples too. And then in the future, we want to do a speaking circuit with like several different people. I wanted to have like a body positive influencer, with me, the photographer, with somebody else, the writer, and we're gonna somebody else, the wellness advocate and the self-care advocate, and we're all gonna tromps around Canada together and do workshops and speaking engagements and how to,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then we're gonna write a book and probably start my own podcast in 5 years and yada yada yada. So those are the visions,
I love that.
but they all tie back into the mission. They all have to be reflective of what you stand for. And once you know, as a company, as a business, as a person, what you stand for, then it gets really easy to make decisions, to figure out what fits and what doesn't, and who fits and who doesn't, because they have to align with your vision. And if they don't, then don't put any energy into it.
I think for me, because I've definitely been taught all of this for business too. And personally for me, because I've never been totally like passionately driven by money or success, it was hollow. For me, I had to shift my mission and my vision for the world that I want to live in. Like, what is my vision for the planet at large, and seeing people on like a global scale, and like, what is my mission day to day in my local community, helping people out, and then even pivoting from there, like, what are my core values and what does that mean for me as a person? How do I show up in my relationships? What are my core values that pillar me into that? Yeah.
And it just solidifies your sense of self, right?
Yes.
And then you're just stronger moving through life if you have this, and then you're less flopsy lopsy, and then you less end up with flopsy lopsy people, because you're like, I know who I am, I know what I stand for, I just don't align. And it's not like, and that's part of the thing too, like, you don't need to ostracize people who aren't with you. Those are probably like great people to have interesting conversations with and inspiring conversations with, but so much good happens from a strong foundation, and a part of that is knowing who you are and what you want to provide to yourself first, and then to the world. Yes. And if you know, see, I got to do a speaking circuit. Like, it's so my thing.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I've never heard, maybe we have a different term for it in the US, because I've never heard specifically of speaking circuit, like a traveling panel or something. I don't know.
Well, it's more like, yeah, I actually don't know what it would be called somewhere else, but I guess it would be more like a traveling workshop, maybe.
Yeah.
It would be just like, in a perfect world, it would be like, I would like go to various major cities in Canada, and we would have like speakers, and then we'd have like a dance class as a break, because everybody likes to dance, and we'd have lots of good food, lots of good drinks. You get like a little gifty for coming, and then you'd also get like a couple photos from me for coming, and just lots of talking, lots of hugging, lots of oorahing in our womanhood, or your non-binary hood, whatever works.
Right, of course. Oh man, I'm excited, and I'm definitely going to stay up to date on these adventures, because I mean, I might have to be a part of it. I'll likely have to be a part of it.
Absolutely. When I've got somebody to bankroll my speaking circuit, because I'm gonna ask for that too, I'll definitely, when I swing down through the States, we're gonna pick you up and bring you with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you. You're welcome. Well, we have reached just over an hour now. I know I love these conversations because they really, I feel like, could go on forever.
Totally.
But let people know where they can find you, how to keep in touch with you. And
really the safest and best place is Instagram. I seem to be able to post more there than I can other places. So I'm on Instagram at __me photo. And then there is a corresponding Facebook page. There's also a really great Facebook group that we just made. It's called Be Empowered by ME Photo. And that's really where we just hype each other up. And I post some of my like client work that I can't post anywhere else. I can post it there. And then I have a website called mephotography.ca. And that's where you can see my most recent work.
Awesome.
And I also do, just as a last tidbit, I do in-person sessions, but I also do virtual sessions.
Oh yeah.
For people that live far away. So
I think it's really important that people go and follow your account, especially because it's important, like I had already said, to surround yourself by real bodies. And I love following you because you're one of those accounts that when I open up my Instagram, it's just like, bam, real body. And I'm like, oh, wow, like this is so cool. And so it's just empowering. We need to follow more of what lights us up.
Yeah, and the virtual shoot that I did with Amy Pence Brown, who lives in Idaho, is like a fat activist and a feminist and a sex positive activist. She's just a great many wonderful things. But we did her shoot naked, and I've now by accident become known as like the naked photographer. And people are always like, "Do I have to be naked with you?" And I'm always like, I mean, no, you don't have to do anything. But like now it's totally opened me up. So now I do everything. And now I'm like kind of around here. I'm like the naked photographer now, which I just don't hate. I
Yeah,
just
I
love
wouldn't hate
that.
that either.
No,
That's
I love
amazing.
that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Megs, for having this candid conversation with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you are welcome. Thank you so very much for taking the time to tune into our conversation today. I hope that you're feeling empowered, fired up, inspired, and if you're really feeling like you want to dive a little deeper, don't forget I have plenty of free resources available to you on my website, as well as a handful now of online courses, including an online movement space that will be coming again, reopening this fall 2020. You can also sign up to have your own little candid conversation with me if you so desire, not recorded and in fact completely confidential. I offer self-care consults on a sliding scale, so you can feel free to check that out if you'd like some personalized, judgment-free lifestyle and stress management advice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. And most of all, really, thank you so much for taking care of yourself. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute. Thank you for taking care of yourself. The world needs more people doing just that. Cheers to a conscious way of living, y'all, for ourselves, for our communities, and our planet. Until next time.